For all of us, our identities are multi-layered and at times contradictory. We play many roles in this, the grand stage of life. I play the roles of artist, daughter, mother, and wife. I am Métis by birth, and yet my soul knows not time nor place nor race, and herein lies the paradox. Because as such, my perceived identity as an individual and my views about our collective Métis nation are sometimes at odds with my concepts of spirituality and the self. And like I said, I'll just let you all read that if you care to. I personally, when I started questioning purpose in art, I started to wonder, to look at my own practice of art, and I really felt as though what I was doing was simply an expression of my own ego. And then I thought, well, you know, what is the point of my life if it's just to express myself in that? So I thought that maybe I should just quit painting and go work at the food bank or something. That might be better, or you know, maybe I should just. Well, I came to the conclusion that what I should do is take my prayers for a better world and try and incorporate that into my art somehow. And I don't believe it's the obligation of Métis artists to represent the Métis nation or to do anything other than to live up to their own potential as artists. A Métis artist produces Métis art whether or not they choose to create art that is in its sound or appearance Métis. However, agreeing that one form of art is not superior to the other, there are artists all over the world who make the personal choice to try to do more with their art than simply express themselves. Their goal is to create works that have a purpose beyond themselves in their intent. For example, many Aboriginal artists use their art to provide commentary on contemporary issues framed in a historical context of injustice and cultural genocide. And I find the use of historical context to be the common link between Métis artists and other Indigenous artists. To what extent does art created by Métis visual artists in the Métis Nation lend collectively to the telling of Métis people in contemporary terms? I don't know. That's an open-ended question that we'll try and answer later on, I guess, all of us together. If you take, for example, Sherry Rissette's beautiful work, her paintings are full of movement and life, and you become absorbed in the warm colors and brushstrokes. Her work is full of historical references, and she educates the viewer through her paintings. You can feel what it was like for our people at the time of the buffalo hunts. Her paintings speak 1,000 words, and she paints with intent and purpose, not to merely entertain the viewer or herself, but to raise awareness of the Métis. Take a drink here. I'm very, very nervous. And that's likewise with another Métis artist you may not even know is an artist, Jean Taillé, my friend. And she is a brilliant lawyer who successfully, we think successfully, will have argued Powley at the Supreme Court of Canada. But Jean, before she chose her second career as a lawyer, she was actually a professional visual artist and a dancer. She uses beads, and really it's hard to describe, but the textures that she creates through the beads are just phenomenal. And she uses them and creates large pieces of work using beads. Her subject matter varies, but she says it always comes down to one concept, that nothing is forgotten and the knowledge of a people remains intact. David Hannon's work, he's an artist from Métis artist from Ontario, and he includes historical references and explores issues of identity. His image content developed from research of written histories and the oral histories of family and friends using mixed media. He explores issues of Métis identity to contribute to the discourse on Métis needs, which are often marginal to the mainstream. By exploring the relationship of history to the present and how it affects us as knowledge, he says there's a place made to interpret what it means to be Métis at this point in history. Of course, these are just 3 examples of many. If I were to guess, I would suppose that the use of historical references in Métis artist work is done partly as a reclaiming of one's own personal history and an expression of the individual identity of each artist. But looking at it collectively, it would seem to me that it's all adding up to a reclaiming of our collective history. Métis artists are calling for past wrongs to be made right. Métis artists are calling for the settling of outstanding claims, and Métis artists are calling for justice. But each artist has their own reason for creating art with a purpose, and I'd like to discuss for a moment or two some of the reasons why I choose the subject matter of flowers. For my own work, I paint shapes and dots, and well, you've seen it outside, and of course on all the artwork in the poster. Choosing consciously to paint flowers in styles similar to traditional Métis art fulfills a need within me to contribute something to our nation. By painting flowers that emulate beadwork, I attempt to raise awareness of the Métis Nation. I am providing commentary on the ignorance that exists in Main Street Canada when it comes to the Métis Nation. Like Sherry and others, I'm trying to put our history at the forefront. Why is it that references to our people in books and museums and schools continue to be void of any direct acknowledgement of our people as a nation and the contributions we've made to Canada? We are the least celebrated of all the founding peoples of this country. Not only are we not celebrated, we are a source of shame to a certain extent. We are left over from the past that some would wish that would just vanish. They say, sure, Louis Riel and his people lived in the past, but what are you still doing here? Who are you? What is a Métis? And that's a question I despise. We are misunderstood and our Aboriginal status questioned from all sides in a demeaning manner as if we have no right to exist. If we the Métis are Canada's forgotten people, then I consider it my mission in life to make sure we are remembered. And hopefully my paintings will endure to remind people of that long after I'm gone. I use beadwork patterns in my work to provide a proliferation of all things Métis, my voice joined with others in the nation. I use beadwork to infer a sense of history and to celebrate beauty within our culture. And I use beadwork to make the statement that Métis culture is not fossilized, but alive. I use beadwork as a tribute to my ancestors, as a way of saying, you don't have to worry, our struggle is not as dire, we have survived. As I said earlier, identity is multi-layered, and so while I paint flowers to express my Métis identity, I also have other reasons that don't necessarily have anything to do with me being Métis, but more with me with a broader sense of myself as a member of the human race desiring to contribute something positive to the world. I would like to just touch on some of the reasons why I choose the subject matter of flowers. The use of flowers in artwork throughout the world is not new. For centuries, Chinese artists have used nature and floral designs in many of their artwork, as have artists in India. And still life flower painting originated over Europe in the 16th and early 17th centuries. In the past 100 years, Czech Republic women have used flower paintings in their hand-painted Easter eggs. South Poland women have decorated their houses inside and out with floral design, and the list goes on. Flowers resonate with meaning and are symbolic of morality and mortality. And Métis art, I think, traditional Métis art, offers a unique addition to the history of floral artwork throughout the world. For my purposes, flowers and our natural affinity to them lend well at my attempts at creating something beautiful for the viewer. I want to offer a counterbalance to the overwhelming negative forces of destruction, despair, violence, and death we are exposed to on a daily basis. I want to offer respite for tired eyes and weary minds. Flowers are also obvious in their overtones to femininity and to women. I often think about my grandmother and other women before who had it really hard, who lived in shame, abuse, and poverty. And I think about women living now who are silenced and oppressed in countries outside of our own. I find that plants and flowers lend well to expressing my views on the oppression of women, sexism, and equality of the sexes. I use bold and bright colors with strong dark stems that are meant to be in your face. And I'm aware that even the act of painting itself is a privilege. I don't take my fortune lightly, and I feel a sense of duty to express myself from this position of health and strength on behalf of other women who cannot. Further, I use my paintings to assert that life is beautiful. My paintings are manifestations of my prayers for everything to be in balance and harmony. And wildflowers and plants make the overt connection to the earth and to our environment. Once again, the subject matter provides a perfect platform for making statements on issues concerning biodiversity, pollution, globalization, resources, fresh water, pesticides, and traditional medicines. Using wildflowers and plants as content also satisfies my own lifelong study and amazement with the diversity found in plant life. Plants represent a microcosm for a larger view of life, not only here on Earth, borrowing from what the Jesuit theologian and philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, "When you come to see the universe as one, as alive, and a part of the immense design, and humans as a part of the whole, then you feel responsible and sensitive to it." Wilfred Peltier, a First Nations philosopher, a mentor and a dear friend of mine, said best in his book, No Foreign Land, that when he finally understood there was only one inclusive totality of life, he realized there was no longer a me and a you, no self and not self, no separate or isolated individuals.